So let me now try and explain the lay of this land to you. This is an area where the Chinese have actually tried even in the past to dominate this. Now let me explain this to you on the map. Let's move forward on this map as I try and explain the terrain to you. Let's move to Arunachal Pradesh. This is the land of the rising sun, and this is Tawang. This is where the flashpoint, the recent flashpoint, is about 35 kilometers from this point. This is where the clash has taken place on the 9th. Let's move on to the next slide as I try and explain the lay of the land to you. Now, you look at this. Now, in summers, of course, this is quite green, but otherwise, these are mountains. These are high mountains in this area. The clash, we are told, has taken place at somewhere in this area. These are some of the peaks. Now, this is the line of actual control. As you can see, this is an area which is Indian territory, but there is a perception difference in this area. The Chinese also try and come up to their claim line. India goes up to what we perceive as our territory. And while India and China, there have been perception differences along the line of actual control. Both sides go up to their claim lines. But then there is a red line, and India stops China from crossing that red line. And I once again want to bring in Shiv Aroor for more on this. Shiv, if we were to talk about the difference in perception, there may be a perception difference. But this time, especially after Galwan, India does not trust China at all. No question of letting China come to occupy the heights or come anywhere close to the heights.
There's no question of trusting China with even the least bit of movements. And like I said, the fact that China has inexplicably been boosting its troop numbers at many of these posts has eroded trust even further in the Yangtze sector, which is a place which, as we've been discussing, is a place where, tensions have been traditionally high, especially in the last few months. There's absolutely no question. The trust has been at rock bottom since, May 2020. There have been disengagements in eastern Ladakh, but the very fact that there have been a handful of brawls across sectors since May 2020, this one was a fairly serious one, but there have been some minor brawls. There have been some instances of Chinese soldiers being kept back on the Indian side, after they tried to infiltrate in October 2021. So the trust deficit between both sides is at an all-time low. But given the fact that the larger picture hasn't changed, that China's mass deployments, on the Tibetan side have remained extremely high, coupled with infrastructural developments on their side and our side. India's trust factor is also, lack of trust rather, is coupled with a very, very aggressive no-nonsense posture. They don't take any nonsense. The threshold for reaction from the Indian side is much lower now because they are well aware of the kind of treachery that China is capable of and has been demonstrated ever since Galwan.
And read between the lines, as Shiv Aroor very rightly pointed out, there have been times when India has kept back Chinese soldiers who tried to violate the line of actual control, of course returning them after conversations. And as Abhishek will tell us, there have been multiple face-offs even after Galwan. Not clashes, but face-offs at the borders. I have two experts who join me on the broadcast. Shiv and Abhishek, stay with me. Here are officers who've been posted on ground. They know the lay of the land. They join us on the broadcast. Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain joins us on the show, as does Colonel Dini. Both have dealt with Chinese soldiers at the LAC, whether in Ladakh or in Arunachal Pradesh. General Hasnain, Chinese action looks very well planned. What do you make of the timing of the Chinese actions and the action itself?
See, Gaurav, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. I think it's a very important juncture that we are at today, the onset of winter 22-23. For a long time, we've had no real action on the line of actual control. And it's a known Chinese PLA strategy that focus on the conventional operations, focus on the land borders of the Himalayan front is a necessity from time to time to keep India committed, its forces committed to the land borders, while the actual attention should really be in the maritime zone, where the Chinese are much more vulnerable. They perceive themselves to be much more vulnerable. Therefore, this is a long-old ploy of theirs to keep the pot boiling, different sectors, different times, get the LAC active. This is an operation, virtually an operational necessity for them. But more important than that, at this juncture, there's a requirement of a psychological aspect to it. They want to send home a message. They've earlier in Ladakh, they have not been able to achieve their aim at all. Now they want to open up a different front to try and bring about what I've always been talking about, moral domination on the line of actual control. Something which Pakistan has been doing attempting to do on the LOC, which we have bettered them over the years many times. The attempt here to try and create pinpricks, to try and force the Indian Army down to look down and give home a message that the PLA has soldiers who are 10 feet tall, who are far better trained and equipped than the Indian Army.